My name is Lars. I work with Lego. More specifically, I work with our consumer marketing agency. Never thought I'd going to say that when I graduated as an engineer. I work with our digital experience platform, which is the part that we build all our global marketing on. So that's websites, apps, and even some of our games tie into that. What I'm going to talk to you about, I found out this morning, is actually roundabout. So my official title is Program Manager, which means that I'm in charge of budgets, timelines, and that kind of stuff, or the traditional management kind of side on running big programs, running projects. I do like to consider myself a bit of an agile alchemist as well, which is the reason I'm here today. I'm so fortunate that I have an organization of about 140 people that I'm allowed to run quite some experiments on. And one of those experiments is the one I'm talking about today. But before I'm talking about it, awesome, thank you. We're already there. But before I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to take you back about a year, run through a short introduction, and then take you right with me into the mud, going through a lot of pictures of what scaling agile at Lego consumer marketing is actually all about. Cool. So it started a year ago when I started my current position, and I was asked the question, so how do we scale that agile thing? We had back then about 14 development teams running Scrum or Kanban. We had a demand exceeding capacity by a couple of 4 to 3 times, and we were looking into a market that was changing ever faster, and we needed to react faster and faster on trends. So how do we do that? My first thought is, well, we don't scale. Let's keep things small, decoupled, only scale that's the stuff that really needs to. But I pretty soon found out that that wasn't really an option. The technology stack wasn't as decoupled as it should have been. People were delivering a lot of products that had all kinds of dependencies to each other. So team were one sprint working together on one product, another sprint working together on a different product. And there were all kinds of both human and technical dependencies all over the place. So the real question is, how do we scale agile when we're already big and messy, when we're in the middle of it? A thought that came to mind is kind of what that kid up there does, smash it. Let's start over, let's build it from the bottom, but obviously in a global company you can't do it. You need to keep delivering marketing campaigns, you need to keep the wheels running. About 70% of the models that Lego brings out are new every year, and they don't sell themselves, or some of them do, but they do need some marketing material as well. So that's the solution. Big room planning. We put 140 people in a room for 2 days, and we run a lot of experiments. That's our roundabout. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. The pattern of using big room planning and all the small micro patterns within that big pattern. So it started for us with the belief that we need to focus on the basics. We need to amplify simple things, and we need to amplify collaboration at the lowest levels. So when you think about scaling stuff, it typically introduces a lot of overhead, introduce the need for coordination, the need for aligning priorities, all kinds of stuff that just drags teams down compared to when they were just on their own. So there it is. Let's scale. That was the task, and there's definitely no shortage of frameworks out there to choose from, and these are just a couple of them. The one we chose will probably come as a surprise, and I'm expecting at least a couple of boos, because a Scale Agile framework, if you've read about it on the internet, you'll probably found dozens of rants going on about the bad things about this. And I do believe that it's a tricky one. But it's basically saying that safe is bad is the same thing as saying that a certain cookbook is bad. Because that's really what safe is. It's a big, heavy cookbook with a lot of recipes, and it does lead you in the way of thinking, I probably cook all my meals this way, but you can go about it in a different way. You can get inspired by some of the recipes, and that's what we did. So the situation we faced is basically we had that lower part here. We had Scrum teams running on a synced sprint cadence. We had a lot of them. We had that huge budget process that even was a bit Kanban inspired, that covered all of Lego, so not just us living in a software development world, but also all the manufacturing part impacted by a yearly budget cycle. So we needed something in between. We needed some program level-ish thing that would interface the agile software development that we were doing in the team and the world around it that didn't really work in an agile way, that didn't know what software development or the principle of agile development really are. So what we liked about the program level is basically the concept of having the restraint engineer. Basically a Uber Scrum Master, somebody who can speak on behalf of a team of teams, somebody who's in charge of processes that are not in the team but shared across, and that really worked for us. We also thought that it gives us a chance to dress up, and I'll show you why later. But that's basically what we took from it. So we didn't go all in. We didn't introduce all of SAFe, all the roles, all the many things that aren't safe. We stuck to that, and the story to our top management saying, we got it covered. We have a solution. Just let us do it our way. I start with one thing first, and that's the shared cadence. It's really more important than you should think. Now SAFe works with a two-tier planning cadence. You have the sprints, as you would have in a normal Scrum setup, and we had those, and we kept those running on 2 weekly sprint cadence, and we introduced a program cadence on top of that, an 8-week cadence that would govern the timing of our planning. It's pretty important to say here that this governs the timing of planning, not the timing of releases. So we used to, and we still do, run a continuous delivery organization, so stuff can be delivered at any time. We don't buffer stuff up to the end of sprints or to the end of a program increment. We do release it when it's ready, but we plan on a fixed cadence that allows us to take care of a lot of the complexity that this big organization of now about 20 teams gives us. So traditionally, SAFe talks about an agile release train, a team of teams working together on one product, delivering a coherent experience, and that's not really our case. We're delivering a lot of different marketing campaigns on a lot of different marketing channels, but they're somehow interconnected, and that's why we chose. Well, let's have this not for agile release train. Let's have it for everybody. So let's all development teams run them on a single cadence, have them all sit together. Maybe they're only loosely coupled, but maybe they'll be more tightly coupled in a sprint or in 10. So let's just start by having them all together and see how it goes. And then came big room planning. Well, not really. The first time it looked like this. We had a room that was too small to fit everybody in. It was really noisy. We had kind of a humming sound like in here. We even collided with release dates of some of the teams that had to leave in the middle of the planning session, and everybody left with a headache in the first day because it was simply impossible to sit in this tight room and do a sprint planning kind of activity. But we had fun hats for our roles. Let's look at how that worked. It actually worked quite well. So despite of all the headache, despite of the noise and the frustration about the surroundings, instantly the team felt that this was something we needed to continue work with. This was something that put the communication face to face. People were talking with other teams instantly because they were just sitting on the next table. We would have stakeholders in the meeting already from the first time. So a lot of communication would happen face to face instead of email or phone. And on top of that, when all based on all that communication, the teams came up with their first plans. So this would be a plan high level for sprints. They would receive instant feedback. So they could say, well, dear or the team, can you do this at the second sprint? Yeah, we can do that. And can you do this now? We can do it. We'll do it later. And they would receive instant feedback based on management, from management, so they could show their plans and say, we're probably going to do this in the next 2 months. And management could say, yeah, that's awesome, or not so awesome. So let me, ties back to what we do. Let me take you through how that actually looks like. So this is an overall agenda for the last peer planning that we did a month ago. Main takeaways from this slide: all the blue areas are communication from the stage to the audience, kind of like this. All the yellow topics are team breakouts. That's where the team actually sit together at a table and do sprint planning kind of work. And the red one is a management only. I'll get back to that. I'll keep it for your reference up here so you know where I am. It typically starts with feedback on the last PI. We tell the teams how we think they did. Did they deliver what we hoped they would? Both from management, yeah, you did awesome, or no, we didn't deliver what that customer wanted. And a bit from me, some hard facts, a lot of different kind of information that we think are useful for the teams to have in mind and to think about when they plan the upcoming program increment. We do have a system demo, that's a sprint demo for everybody just before we go into planning, but this is kind of the gist of it and focused on what the teams need going forward. There's also a celebration element in this. Let's see, with all the technical luck we had until far, this actually plays. You may cover your ears. I have no idea how the sound settings are. They are not very loud. Anyway, you would be hearing some music and a lot of cheering and clapping. It's really an awesome, when you get that many people in a room and they are really concentrated, you need something to get them started, and this really did it for us. It's just something to get people started. Whoop. Interesting. There we go. This is followed by a series of lightning talks. These cover a bit of everything. The main purpose is to inspire the teams and to guide the teams on their way into planning. So there'll be something about high-level priorities. These come either as general guidelines for everybody. We really want to focus on some architectural aspects that are shared for everybody, and they also come in the form of high-level priorities from our main customers that we think everybody should know about. Of course, the product owners for each team have additional details that are relevant only for one team, but this is kind of the main stories. We also put a lot of effort into finding topics we think the teams should think about. So something about digital child safety. That's of course pretty important when we do marketing for children. Global Insights, which is the central unit and Lego that collects all the insights about what works, what for kids, what are they interested in, giving some perspective of that to our development teams, changes and privacy laws, or even something internal, like a hackathon we did some months ago. So all kinds of information that we want to give the team so that they can plan better and can deliver better products. Shortly after this first half of day, when we had all these kind of topics shared to teams, we collect feedback instantly. So we have feedback boards on the way out of the room where we ask the teams to dot vote what they liked, what they didn't like. We ask for concrete feedback as well. So we try constantly to evolve this format. And then after a short lunch break, they start to plan. So you'll notice colored t-shirts. The teams are really getting into trying to make team identities, and basically the setup is one big sports hall with a lot of tables, whiteboards, and the teams working with themselves, trying to plan, but also working with each other, kind of visiting each other, talking about technical aspects, talking about dependencies, So it's really a high energy setup. You can't keep concentrating for so long, so of course we ask the teams that they can spend their time as they see fit. Some of them choose to build a bit of Lego, but we do ask of all of them to stay in the room. It's really important for the teams in such an event to know that even though you don't work actively on planning right now, it's really important that you stay here, because some of the others may do, and they may need you somewhere along their road towards a plan for the next 2 months. What they plan is pulled off a feature backlog. Now, as I told you, we're doing a bit of different experiences and products during such a session. A lot of different things are planned. Some of the teams work on a shared backlog. So they pulled features of a feature backlog that we prepared. This was how it looked at the second or third planning. Today it's a digital one. We're trying to constantly also evolve that part, trying both online and offline versions. Currently it's the tool that we use for Scrum, but I'm sure other tools would support us as well, just to visualize and collect data on how we're doing, and we actually use this afterwards to follow up, like how are we doing with planning? Are the teams progressing as we think they will? Are some of them overcommitting? Are they undercommitting? And in general, how does the backlog in general look? Have they pulled as much as we hoped? Another thing to synchronize around are the dependencies. I think that's really important. Thank you. So having 20 teams with a lot of dependencies can really be tricky. We saw a lot of delays early on because dependencies between teams simply weren't caught, and we couldn't centralize it. So instead we chose a centralized tool for decentralized dependency mapping. So whenever a team discovers a dependency to another team, it takes that team up to the board. They just put post-its on it, connect them with a red line. These are sprints. These are all the teams. And over the course of these 2 days, this board grows into something like this. So we have an overview of all the dependencies. We can instantly see patterns. So you'll notice here's one team that's really has a lot of dependencies to it, and there's some here that pretty much work independently of everybody else. So I, as a program manager, also know going into the program increment where to focus my energy, what to watch. And we do that also during the Scrum of Scrums, where we bring the board back with us at the office and have the Scrum of Scrums in front of it, kind of follow up. Is this still progressing as we think? Are there problems turning up along the way? Another tool we use are risk boards. So you know you can roam the risks, you can resolve, own, accept, and mitigate risks. But in my experience, Scrum teams aren't using risks actively. Not as actively as I, as a former project manager, would like them to anyway. So we use these boards and we introduce them either for projects that are shared between more teams or really important projects. And we ask the team to put up all the risks along the day when they plan that they uncover. And we ask them to talk with their manager about it instantly, so that we try to not buffer up risks to some risk session, but address them as soon as we see them, and also kind of visualize it and have it for follow-up. Actually, no, let's have this first. So once the team have done about 2.5 hours of breakouts and have a first draft plan of what they think they will do on a high level for the next 2 months, we'll have a draft review. Safe talks about this as a big session where everybody presents to everybody. We tried that. That was really painful because not everybody's interested in what everybody else is doing. So instead we have this format where basically we have 4 rounds where the team leaves one behind who presents their own plan, and everybody else can go to a team of their choosing and listen in on what they think they will do during the next 2 months. It's really, again, a great tool for decentralizing knowledge sharing. So we let the people choose themselves what kind of knowledge they need, and it actually works really, really well. The first, you typically see that they use a bit more time the first 2 times, because they have a couple of teams that they are closely interacting with, and then the last 2 times of 5 minutes is sufficient for just the listening in on a team that you may or may not think that will be relevant for you. After this, all the team members leave for the day. It's a normal work day. So behind stays the management team, and that's everybody from the line manager for the teams up until the senior manager. Where is Marco? I think he's over here somewhere behind there. Who's kind of the senior director for all of the digital marketing. And what we do at this evening event is we go through all the backlogs. The product manager kind of going through, am I confident that we can do this? Are there any concerns with what the teams have pulled? Are we missing something? Or are we even delivering more than we expected? And also going through all the risk boards, looking at, are there any risks that need escalation? And we address this at the evening of the first day, so that when the second day starts, we can start the second day with instant feedback from management on, are we satisfied? Do we see any problems with what with your draft plans for the next 2 months? Are there any directions we need to change? Are there any risks that we already have addressed, or that somebody in management has taken ownership of? And we send then the teams off to another couple of hours of team breakouts. My experience is they usually are done relatively early in this block, but again, some really do use all the time, and all the others stay there. They start to develop, or they start to answer emails, spend their time as they see fit. Again, we're hiring smart people, so we shouldn't get in the way of doing what they think is right. We'll end the event with a final plan review. Currently, we are still using the format that everybody presents to everybody, and we are also giving feedback from the product managers and senior management on what they heard instantly. It's maybe the weak part, I think, of this event, and we're thinking about ways to change this. And of course, then we end with the confidence vote. So we really try to create a transparency into risks, into plans, and ask the teams to give us feedback on whether they think this will work or not. The event ends with a retrospective. The teams do retrospectives for themselves, and then have their Scrum Master present it to us at a shared session, and we kind of both ask for how is this good for you? Does this work for you? As you can see, this one is from last time. Generally getting really positive feedback from the teams, but we do still have some ones and twos. But we ask them, well, so what should we change and what should we do more of? So this format really changes from every time. So we think actually that we managed to get more collaboration in a much simpler way than we had before. And it did a lot of other things for us that I unfortunately don't have time to cover in 30 minutes. So it's really a driver of momentum for us. Having these big events every second month drives commitment from the business side, drives commitment from our own side. It creates a lot of awareness of that we're undergoing a change process, and that change is constant. So it's not small incremental changes, but it's in-your-face change, also towards the business around us. And as a side note, it actually turns out to be quite a nice buffer between operating in an IT department waterfall world and our marketing agile software development world, where the 2-month cadence kind of seems to be a reasonable middle ground, at least our company. So let me finish with this slide and the key takeaways. So we really think that big room planning can be a quite useful pattern to use. It's certainly not the right one for everybody. It was or is the right one for us. It gives us more collaboration. It gives us more alignment on when we plan and what we plan, how we plan. It gives us a lot more transparency into the risks and the dependencies that we are working with. Not more, just the same as before, but now we know them. And it gives us a lot of other nice things. So that's it for me. Thank you for your time.